Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we tackle the issues. We talk about the front of the house, the back of the house. We even talk about the office and the parts department and all the other departments in the store. Why? Because the better we get at what we all do collectively, the better the customer experience. You know, that big buzzword that we hear about today as though it's something new. It's not anything new, folks. It's always been the most important part. And we had a great show last week. Thank you, Michael, for coming back on.
Thanks for having me.
We covered so much stuff, but yet there was so much stuff that we still wanted to cover. And if we don't get all the information out, I almost feel like I gypped you guys and gals. So Michael has been gracious enough to come back, and we're going to share a little bit more. Let me just make sure I'm in the right place here. Ooh. And okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a slight recap of what we did last week, and then we'll go further and dig deeper into some of the other areas that we did not get to. But before we get started, for the few folks that may or may not know who you are, why don't you give us a kind of a rundown of who you are, what you do, and how you got to this point, and then we'll jump right in.
Sure. Thanks again for having me on the show. My history is I grew up in the car business. So I had a grandfather that was a VW dealer in Ohio. My father and uncle basically came to Arizona, where I'm at now, opened dealerships out here. I was in the retail side for 17 years, of which 13 of those years was in the finance office, which is where I found what I really enjoyed. From that point, I went to an agency into F&I Solutions Group, worked with them for several years to where now we've transitioned to starting our own agency, Elite FI Partners. And we've been doing agency side for about 8-9 years now in total. So as far as our history in automotive, we're all car guys and car gals that work in our company. And, we've all got a history of working in the finance office. What we do now currently is we bring F&I products, training, and support into our dealers. So you'll see a lot of times, as Paul has mentioned, I'm on LinkedIn or Facebook and posting about it as I'm traveling from dealership to dealership. But what I'm constantly doing is I'm one of the guys out on the road that's introducing our company to new prospective dealerships, or I'm one of the guys that's in a dealership working hands-on training with the finance guys side by side, going through the different steps and outlines that we like to follow.
I like the fact that you do a lot of training. You're very big on process, and process is something that a lot of people tend to overlook. I'm a big believer in follow the process. If you have a good process, this isn't something somebody just pulled out of a hat. This has been researched, tried and true. Right. It's stuff that works. You have to believe in it and you have to execute on that process. Even if sometimes you don't think it's going to work, there's plenty of evidence before you looked at it that says that it does work. And right. Sometimes, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, things always seem to take longer than you plan. But if you have a solid plan, then you need to stick with that plan because it will bear fruit. If you're doing the wrong thing, you'll kind of know in short order that you are. And in collaborating, which is a big part of what we do in our business, we have calls throughout the week where we collaborate with other professionals and we talk about things that work or maybe things that don't work as well. And we're continually tweaking the process. But I love it because you're always putting out the latest, greatest stuff that you see working in the field. And that's a big inspiration.
And to touch on that, you're exactly right. A process is just that. It's a process, not a script, right? I go into stores and we have, in essence, scripts that we show them how it can be explained, spoken to a customer, but I don't ever want somebody to memorize a script. I want them to memorize the idea of a process. As far as how it works and what, the fundamentals are that we're installing inside a dealership, I definitely have what I feel is a blueprint to something that works. Now, but on the flip side of that coin, we do everything possible to constantly keep our ears open to, hey, is something out there that's working better? Hey, is there something out there that people are experiencing? And maybe we need to tweak what we're doing a little bit. And so our process from the time that we started, like I was saying, agency-wise, like 8 years ago to where we are today is completely different. We've absolutely changed what it is that we do inside a dealership. And that's based on being in the store based on the feedback that we're getting from managers. And I tell people, hey, look, if what you're doing works better, present your process to me. I want to see exactly what you got, and we'll go back and forth and see, if there's holes in it, or if there's a way that we can incorporate it or make it, improve upon what you're currently doing.
And I'm always all ears. We go into things with preconceived notions based on what our past experience is. And if we haven't experienced something, our natural reluctance is going to be to not want to change. But I've looked at and talked about situations that maybe I saw differently. But in having these collaborative type conversations, I learned to respect another viewpoint on it. And I actually learned some things that made better what I do, the way I do it. So great stuff. I want to get to a couple of comments. Ed Shipolowski, hello everyone, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Hey Ed. Steve Chesson from the West Coast says hi, and Eric, my SDL brother, says good evening, gentlemen. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Timothy Wilson, good evening, gentlemen. Looking forward to tonight's show. And Michael Barrich, hashtag raise the bar.
Exactly.
Happy Father's Day, y'all. And Joe Clementi, we're going to see Joe Clementi next week, folks. Just a little teaser alert here. Says, good evening, everyone. Happy Father's Day. And Michael Weldon from the West Coast also chimes in with a happy Father's Day, everyone. Happy Father's Day, all. All right, so last week I just want to recap a little bit in case anybody has any questions, because we always remember what we forgot to ask after we had the opportunity to do so. But the beauty of the internet is it lives on forever. So if at any time on any of our broadcasts there's something you'd like clarification on or some additional information on, by all means, click on the tagged link in the post, either to Michael, myself, or any of the other guests we have on here. And we are all happy to further the conversation. The conversation is free. The two things are going to come out of any conversation. Either A, it's going to cement in your head, yeah, I got this. I've got everything covered and I'm doing it the way it should be done and there's no way to improve. Or the other part that I like is that small piece that could come up and said, I've not quite looked at it that way before, or I haven't had luck with that, but it seems as though somebody else has. And then that leads into yet another conversation. Right. So we talked about processes and outlining how to present and not sell, the new training models that have been around for years. And I think we just touched on that now, how your training has evolved based on best practices that you've seen in stores and or collaborated with people about. We also talked about creating new ways to introduce awareness and product knowledge, implementing QR codes and custom videos to reinforce product knowledge and needs awareness. What I love about these videos is that it's the third-party endorsement, right? It's not me telling you, hey, you got to buy this stuff because I'm selling it. No, exactly. We're having a conversation. Hey, Michael, how do you drive your car? Where do you go? Do you drive on you do driving vacations? Do you go off-roading? There's just conversations that you have to build rapport. And that tells you what your opportunities are with that person to enhance their ownership experience. And then while they're waiting to go into the box or finance office, as some call it, they can watch a third-party video that's well put together.
Right.
That explains how it works and what the benefit is.
Well, the big thing is with that, the QR code and the videos, one of the things we maybe didn't talk about last time is that we're getting to the customer quicker. We're getting information to them. We're starting the steps. I'm in a dealership. I can't tell you the number of times I'm sitting in a finance office and the manager's comfortable in his box, right? And customers all around. He makes no effort to get out and introduce himself or, go out and check on what's happening in certain steps of sales. Like if one's coming to him soon, start breaking down those barriers with customers. Introduce yourself. I will literally send a finance manager out and say, I want to know if they have a family, if their grandparents live in town. I want to know just random facts about this person by the time you come back here, because if you can hold a conversation with them and start to learn about them, you start breaking down that barrier. Well, videos are doing the same thing. We're putting them, as we said last week, on the website so that they're starting to see these products ahead of time. It's not something that we're intimidating with, and then as they're coming into the finance office, again, it's reiterating the stuff that we're going to introduce to them when they do come in. But the sooner we can get in front of a customer, the sooner we can use technology to help get our message or our products in front of them, and start educating them on what that product's going to do, the better everything goes, the better it flows, for that experience.
And as with anything else that you're marketing, a consistent message delivered across various different platforms, right? So you do the meet and greet where the customer's comfortable at the salesperson's desk. They're not threatened. They've just spent God only knows how many hours with the salesperson. They felt comfortable enough to make a buying decision. And especially today, where I think the payment just crossed the $700 monthly line. That's huge. I don't know that we've ever seen that in the car business. So it's that much more important to build rapport. And then while they're waiting, because let's face it, we're all short-handed, but you still need to take all of the steps that you need to take. So the customer might wait a little bit longer, but as you outlined last time, by having this short meeting and outlining the process of what's going to happen and giving them some third-party documentation to look at, i.e. videos that represent value to them, now they're more at ease because they know what's coming. It's not a surprise. They're not just, it's not like going into a doctor's office where you wait an hour.
And another nice feature of having these the way that we do them is that as current events and as things change around us, we can adapt or change the video to match what's going on. So as we're watching, the payment goes up, right? The average payment is now pushing 700, or, people are talking about inflation and they're talking about, all the things that are going on. Everybody's talking about gas prices at the pump. What if your message is tailored to incorporate all of that in those videos? And so now it's not some canned message that's years old. They're watching something that seems very relevant to what's happening right now all around them. And that's what I love about this, is that as we tweak and make adjustments to these things, we can put them out live in our dealerships so that the message always stays relevant and current. And so you get far more engagement out of these types of tools.
Yeah, the key word here being relevant.
Right.
Because there are a lot of times where you see old information. And if somebody spots old information, it's so much work to get the customer's trust, but you can lose it in an instant. And so we also talked briefly about the challenges that dealers face with regards to cash deals and leases.
Correct.
Where in a lease scenario, they don't necessarily see the opportunity because if somebody's in a lease for 2 to 3 years, they're not going to buy a 7-year warranty or an 8-year warranty.
Exactly. And it's, I know we're slated to talk about a couple things a little bit later in the show, but one of the things when you talk about cash and lease deals that I think we've found some success with is there's probably not a dealership out there that a cash deal and a lease deal hold the same type of numbers as a finance deal. Finance deals are going to be the holy grail for every finance manager. They love working a finance deal because inherently it's easier. But the problem with that, like just at the core, if you think about it, is it's easier because you're selling based on a payment, which means they have not still sold value. Right. And so when you start to get a finance manager to understand that, okay, you're finding these deals harder because you're not actually doing a good job. I mean, I'm not trying to be, insulting to a finance manager as I say that, but you're not building value, because if somebody comes in and writes you a $50,000 check for a vehicle, they more than likely can afford the products that you're selling them. They're just the value that you're building in them. Now, if you're going into that finance customer and you're selling, it's only $30 a month, you're selling on the value of the payment difference, only going up $30, not on the value of the product. And it's awesome when a finance manager can see that and they light up in their eyes. They're like, oh my God, you're right. And then ultimately, obviously, we want to tailor those products, and have the ability to maybe sometimes customize a product to match and fit the dealership. So that way on a lease or on a cash deal, there might be a slightly different product presentation that's coming out, and that product is tailored to that scenario. So you're going to have a lot more success with it. And the fact that, hey, it's not a 7-year warranty for a customer that's probably going to keep the vehicle for 2 or 3 years. It's a product that's going to protect everything that matters in that time frame. And so when you do those two things and you focus on those areas, those types of deals inherently become more successful, because now you get somebody that has a product they can, as a finance manager, get excited about. It fits the scenario, And as long as they got that product knowledge, they're now selling on the product and not on the payment. And you watch those numbers start to climb.
Now, what I find interesting also is that, okay, so the retail installment client, that's the holy grail, right? That's what everybody wants. But at the same token, there have been some hiccups in the economy, and with payments creeping up, it may not be as easy to sell that additional payment. So where the value to the customer, now that becomes paramount, because and I've seen this over decades. When the customer believes it in here and in here, the money just shows up. It's amazing how that works.
Right.
Because you're selling the value that it represents them. I saw a customer come in to turn in an RX 300 at Lexus years ago. When the RX 330 came out, that payment was significantly higher than the 300 that people were turning in. And this couple said, I can't go a penny over 350 or whatever the number was.
Right.
That customer left spot delivery on a $600 payment.
Right.
Because when the value was equal in here and here, then it became almost nothing. Let me get to a couple of comments before you jump in here. Let's see here. Michael Barrage says, menu sales in finance has worked since you started in finance, Michael. Wish the fixed side would commit globally. It's 2022 for the record.
Right.
The menu system has always worked well. Since we started using it anyway. For those that use
it's changed a little bit over time, but it's definitely been the staple for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna choose something. And as it relates to the fixed op side of things, what I love is when I go into a store and I see their menu, not just their menu, but their menu, how it compares to other repair shops. I see their number at X. I see other repair shops, some higher, some lower. They're not afraid to show the higher and the lower because they're selling the value of why you're in there to begin with. So I don't really care if it's an extra $20.
And they're selling credibility because they're being transparent about what the neighbors are doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that hard. Michael Barrett says, happy Father's Day, Coach. Kenny D from Sugarland, Texas says, OMG, Michael is back. Savor the flavor of the awesomeness in you, Paul Meijer, for having a delectably, scrumptiously delicious, tasty, good, heartfelt conversation with Michael today. I love this guy. I'm going to meet him at NADA next year when it is in Dallas.
Okay.
And Ramon Rodriguez Gonzalez says, happy Father's Day. Same to you, my friend. And Fred Lenartz III, otherwise known as the subprime hero, says, happy Father's Day, guys. Same to you, my friend. Awesome. Joe Clementi, great point. The value proposition, not cost, is central to the client. I think I played a video last week about the young lady that went into the quick lube place, and she acknowledged that she paid more, and she acknowledged that she would do it gladly again.
Right.
Michael Barrett says, those same finance managers better listen up now, with way too many dealers adding market adjustments to the purchase price, minimizing the opportunities for future purchase underwater. Yeah, that's a great point also, because how do you even... I think the banks have stepped up some as to what they're lending, but I don't think the bank's going to cover somebody's $20,000 market adjustment.
They're not. And in some cases, I mean, some of it's, dictated by credit and the amount of advance that you'll get based on the lender, but there's always going to be restrictions of like how much they're willing to stretch. Yeah. And you're always going to have availability in most cases, I should say, where you can add back end products on top of that front end number. Okay. So they may be maximized as far as what that bank program is going to allow them to do. And in some cases now, currently, it's a little bit bigger, but you're always still going to have the ability to put on a service contract or a gap product or some of the core products that are built into these lenders programs. And so that's a great point. With where vehicle pricing is right now and with the uncertainty of where it's going in, like, say, the next 6, 12, 18 months, it's more important now to buy these products, even when it didn't make sense initially, because we know that value might slide or something might happen to it in the very near future.
Now, that brings me to an interesting point Usually private sales have some bearing on dealer sales. What I mean by that is there's usually some kind of a correlation, right? If the dealer's doing X, the consumers are doing Y.
Right.
I sold our bus recently before we went to Aruba, and we did well. We've had the bus for almost 6 years. We got back every penny over 6 years of ownership, including everything we've put into it.
Right.
On a cash sale. Now, like the typical sales guy, I'm kicking myself in the butt thinking, we left money on the table.
Right. We all think that way.
it's the same every time, right? I don't care who you are, it's the same.
Well, the values are so weird right now. You're exactly right. My wife traded in her truck and got a new truck last week, and we had paid $38,000 for it brand new. 3 years goes by, 35,000 miles and change, and we got more money for it 3 years later than what we had paid for it initially. It's just the craziest thing to wrap your head around when you see it like that. But, and then like you, I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, are you giving me all the right numbers for it? Is that really all the value there is? Because I'm sitting there booking it and checking it. And I'm sitting there like any other time in the car business, I'd be like crazy to even question that. But right now we're all
it's like, you sure?
The values being so high, it just seems strange. But
now,
yeah, it's a
here's
different
something that I saw. Okay, and I'm going to share some of this stuff with you. So, and Marketplace, I've done very well with Marketplace. I've sold just about everything on Marketplace. Here's somebody selling a 92 Chevrolet Corvette with a removable hardtop. They had it listed for $16,000. That price is crossed off. It's now listed for $12,500. A Honda Goldwing motorcycle was listed for $6,900. Price is crossed out. It's now listed for $6,000. Another bike was listed for $8,500. It was crossed out, now $6,300. So here's one, a Jeep Wrangler 2018, a Sahara Unlimited. This one was listed at $42,599. It was crossed out, and now it's listed for $40,500. Now, I'm not hearing any pricing come down on the dealer end.
Right.
But clearly, if I'm seeing this on the consumer private sale end, is that an indication in your opinion that something might be changing here?
I honestly believe it's coming. I believe that we're going to watch these prices start to slide back down into something semi-normal. And I've had this conversation. I can't tell you how many times I go into a dealership and ask them what they're seeing. I always ask, how's it going at the auction? Because I feel like that's going to be the precursor for all dealers. Like when they're buying their vehicles from the wholesale outlets, wherever that may be, are prices still through the roof? Are they normal? And right now, everything that I'm hearing from dealerships that I deal with is they're still high. Prices are still crazy high. And dealerships are still competing at that level to get inventory. Now, they're still buying it. They're still getting inventory, but they're just having to pay up for it. But I think it's gonna shift. And when it does, it's gonna be an interesting time. I think you're gonna see what you're talking about there on Marketplace, happening on the dealer side, and then you're gonna start to see that. I think it's going to be driven by dealers maybe slowing down and things starting to happen, and they're going to all start competing a little bit more aggressively. And pricing is not going to be what it is right now.
I think that there's always good and bad in everything. I think that the good is that when it does change, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of inventory out there at the crazy price where dealers are going to get caught with their pants down, so to speak.
Right.
I think it just moves faster than that. Let me get to a couple of comments. Fred Lenartz III says menus also keep the finance manager from shortcutting and assuming the customer will or will not say yes. Allow the customer to say yes or no. That's absolutely. The 3 100s, right? 100% of the product, 100% of the time.
And if Fred's watching, he should be proud. I'm holding his coffee cup right here on the side.
LinkedIn user, I know who that is. It says, Happy Father's Day, gents. LinkedIn user, AKA Lamont. And right after the show, it'll come up as Lamont Harris. That's too funny. Michael Baird says, no power booking. Michael.
Not at all.
I don't think can that even happen now?
I don't know. I would hope it doesn't, but I'm sure there's dealerships out there that are always trying to be creative in the wrong ways. But I'd like to hope it's not happening much. I like to think banks are verifying and seeing stuff through, but
I've seen some crazy stuff over the years.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that's all behind us now. Mike Vogel, the coach, says, wishing all you dads a happy Father's Day from a non-father. Sorry, I'm late to the show. No problem, Mike. It's the internet. It's always on. So there's no such thing as being late. All right, and now we talked about also some additional finance sources, different lending sources. We touched on that a little bit.
We did. As far as our agency is concerned, we're always trying to bring what makes the most sense for each individual dealership. And F&I products is at the core of what we do, but when we're sitting in that office, there's a lot of things that we branch into. Yeah. And so, we touched on last week, if it's an independent dealership, we have some platforms now that allow us to bring, where a dealer can type in a customer's information and have access to 12 different lenders now that they wouldn't have access to based on maybe how long they've been in business or the type of inventory or how much money they have in the bank account. Those things that normally are like being looked at and scrutinized aren't necessarily going to be scrutinized as the way that we can actually bring these connections now. And it's nice because it evens the playing field. They now have some lending options instead of having to send a customer away to a bank or a credit union to get a check and hope that customer comes back, because that's a pretty common thing you see in some independent dealerships. On the franchise side, we're constantly hoping there's tools out there. eDirector, is one, but like where you can go in and start comparing different lenders side by side on callbacks based on a customer's, credit score, different parameters that they're plugging in. But what's nice about those tools in my eyes is it identifies what lenders maybe they have or don't have. And so it allows us to go to a dealer and say, hey, look, we see that you have, for your 700 scores, you're using lender A, B, and C, and their rates are X, but we can bring these lenders in, and it will not only give your customer a better, interest rate, but it might open up some additional, profitability for you guys because they have a little bit more available on back end or whatever the case may be. So we're constantly looking at that side of it for our dealers as well, because sometimes people just get complacent,
right.
If it's not broken, I'm not going to fix it. Well, sometimes it is broken. You don't realize it. And doing the same thing over and over again is, again, the definition of insanity. We need to look at that and, see what we can do to like inject something that works maybe just a little bit better for you.
And you know what? I think that the credits changed also. 700 2 years ago isn't necessarily the same 700 today.
No.
So you need more sources. And I think we're talking about sources beyond credit unions, right?
Right. Well, lenders, credit unions, banks, however you break it down, the thing for me is you're exactly right. You can have a 700 score, and let's just say all things credit equal with 5 different lenders, you could have completely different callbacks, whether it be interest rate advance, back end advance, relationship to a credit union, maybe giving you an incentive, whatever the case may be. But there's always a reason to have different options or choices because, one bank doesn't fit all customers well. And, right. And it's, I get that dealers have captives and things that they're trying to, funnel a lot of business through, but it doesn't always work well doing it that way.
Right. They have their certain ones that they need to funnel a certain percentage of business too, but let's face it, today you really need to be everywhere, and right. That includes in the bank space. We also touched on reinventing the F&I cycle. We talked about Steve Apicella's wonderful product, Your Dealer Experience, what agnostically ties all these products together,
right?
So that it makes it easier for the customer. And it makes it easier for the service personnel when that person comes back into the drive and has a question on a product that they're not sure of, that you have no idea of as the service advisor, and that the finance manager is too busy to even talk to you about. In right. The meantime, the customer's standing there and said, I spent a lot of money here. Is somebody going to help me?
Exactly.
Which brings
changing that space. Like Steve and I went to dinner a couple months ago, and I love Steve. He's one of those guys where he's like me. He lights up when he starts talking about what he does, and he's just passionate about it. And he's like, hey, where do you think the biggest problem is in the finance office? I'm like, whoa, don't get me started. You know what I mean? Like I got all kinds of things I can talk about there. Right. So, but he's telling me, he goes, the biggest problem is you guys have 10 to 30 minutes to sell products, and that's it.
That's it.
He goes, and that's it. Our life cycle with that customer is so short and so quick, and then it's done and they're gone. And he goes, and there's just nothing else. After right. that point in time, we just hope they come back, or we hope that they didn't have something that upset them in the experience. And his tool is awesome, right? He's going to change. He's one of those guys that's going to change the way dealers look at finance. He's going to change the way that we look at products and sales and penetration and all that, because the metric is always based on what we did at that point in time, but not based on, what happens down the road. And the way that we can open that door up with his tool it's genius. So yeah, it's a whole nother revenue stream for dealers that is going to be just beyond exciting, in my opinion.
Yeah, Steve is right up here somewhere on my list because I've enjoyed some awesome dinners with Steve as well. He's just a
Right.
great guy. And now that brings us to the new portion of tonight's show, the custom creation of products to match dealer needs, right? Not just the cookie cutter. Here's what this warranty covers. Here's what this package is.
Right.
Talk to us about some of the things, or before you do that, let me just get to a couple of comments. Mike Vogel says home prices are already being discounted in the Southern California area and lots of open houses too, like the old days. Real estate is typically a precursor. Of course, there's no chips involved, but it'll be interesting to see, how that pans out. I've already seen some changes in our local real estate market here as well. So,
And they continue to pump up the interest rate, which is going to continue to slow that down even more. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Ed Chipolowski, do longer OEM warranties sell more vehicles? And if so, what lengths of warranties do you foresee? It's a good question.
Do longer OEM warranties sell more vehicles? I think consumers definitely like seeing longer warranties. I don't know if it necessarily leads to more sales.
Look at Mitsubishi.
Yeah, well, Mitsubishi, true. Volkswagen is another one. When they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar and the emissions and everything, they all of a sudden started like lengthening their OEM warranties. But I don't know that it leads to more sales. I don't think it's necessarily. I think it helps a brand like Mitsubishi, which isn't maybe on the same playing field as other guys as far as volume, to try to get people to build confidence in their product. I think the big thing is it turns into an expectation of a customer. If I walked into a Mitsubishi dealership and I'm for years heard 100,000-mile warranty or 10-year 100,000, and all of a sudden it's 336, I'm discouraged. Now I feel like that's the expectation. And GM did it, if you remember, at one point where they had 100,000 mile and it cut it back down, and from I think to 560 on powertrains. But it's just one of those things where you, as a consumer, you hear it and it becomes the normal. Not that you feel like it's an urgency thing to help you, but it's more of a comfort thing. I don't know. I don't know that it generates more sales. I think it's one of those things where it's just going to create the why buy here.
Right. And everybody looks at that differently. We were talking before the show where, we've had 6 Subarus in the family, and the last one that we bought, shopped 10 dealers, and of the 10, only 2 offered me a lifetime warranty on the powertrain, which I think is huge for me and for my family, because we tend to hold on to our cars. So for somebody like me, Ed, a longer warranty may have a certain value to it. But if today, within the last couple of years, 8 out of 10 Subaru dealers, and Subaru is a hot brand, nobody's going to argue that. If 8 out of 10 are not offering that kind of warranty, then how important is it to everybody? That's debatable,
Well, and now lifetime is typically not an OEM warranty, so I mean, that's typically going to be a product that's brought to the dealership. And I think, in my opinion, I think that type of product does build some loyalty with customers. Some people do expect that. Like, you go into any city and state, you typically will find a lifetime program, through NAE or, some variants of it in different stores where they have, and they're trying to lock down that piece of it in a market. And it creates that, loyalty of a consumer, because that's something different. A lifetime has a whole different feeling to a customer than, a 3-year or a 5-year or a 10-year. It just has something, more cementing factor, if that makes sense. And then again, the consumer is receiving that with the vehicle. So it's included, right? Like there's not something they have to pay. Now, I'm one of those guys that love them, because when I'm inside the finance office and I have to go and talk to a customer, like, oh, I don't need a warranty, I have a lifetime one. I start giggling, and it kind of just sets the stage every time, because we know exactly how to explain the benefit of wrapping that, that product. I like lifetimes a lot. I think those build all kinds of credibility. And I follow those. Like, I think if I'm looking at 2 Toyota dealerships, for example, and one has a lifetime product, one doesn't, and everything else is equal, I'm going to the lifetime. Why wouldn't I? And I think a lot of people think that way. The value is better for me as the buyer, because the dealer is going to spend a little bit of money for me to have that lifetime program, where one is not. The other one, I got to purchase, one product or another, and I don't think I can even purchase a lifetime product from them. So, it's just one of those things. I think that definitely brings value. OEM, I mean, as far as what they're doing, I don't think there's something out there that's earth shaking at this point that people are using or utilizing as a tool to like, increase their sales. It's just one of those expectations, I think.
But I agree with you. I see it as a definite value add. And given the choice, I would go with the lifetime warranty as well.
Right.
Because we do tend to hold on cars longer. Now, so it's more than just the cookie cutter stuff from the past. So now you have the ability to build out custom plans, which include different warranty or
Right.
different offerings within the same contract. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we had, a lot of times when we have these things that are like, big things that change inside our agency where we have like, oh, hey, well, now we can do this or now we can do that. It all stems from typically a conversation that happens inside a dealership.
Yeah.
We go in with our, hypothetical suitcase of products and sit in front of a dealer and talk to them about what we have to offer. And we had a dealership where, hey, we have a 3-month, 3,000 mile warranty, a 6-month, 6,000, a 12-month, 12,000 that are like just the giveaway, kind of like a lifetime that he wanted to kind of pick through. But he goes, I want a 1 month, 3,000 mile. And so we started calling companies trying to find it. And nobody surprisingly had the variants that he wanted as far as like the term and miles. And so then we started realizing, okay, we're going to have to custom build something. And so it led us down a lot of different rabbit holes to where we finally ended up. And that is, we now have the ability to create custom contracts to fit exactly what a dealer wants. So if he came to me and said, I want a 5-month warranty with 50,000 miles, and I want it, to be something I can give away with every deal, and I want it to have 2 months of maintenance included in it, we can build it. And so now the really nice thing about it is we have quite a bit of like products that we can offer to a dealership, assortment of things that are already pre-built. But if it's something that they really have, that maybe it makes a niche for them against their competition, or just create something custom that they've been thinking about, we can do that. And then not only can we do that, we can take these products and set them up to be, in their reinsurance or DOWCs or the different profit sharing models that they're using, so that they're feeding into it with the product that they're building.
And that's huge, because that's a differentiator right there.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of have your own product in the box that's different than everybody else.
Right.
Why don't more people look into this?
I was going to say it's a fun conversation with dealers too, when you're sitting there and you're explaining to them, tell me what would make you stand out in your marketplace. Like, if your dealer won on the street of 12 dealers, what do you think would make people, what's a why buy here? What's something that would make you, oh, I'd love it if we could. And those are the things I love hearing. I love when a dealer comes to me and tells me like, oh God, if I could do, just a 1-year, 100,000 mile warranty, and like, or if I could do, 6 months and do this, this, and this, we can take that information, build actuarials, and then actually come back with a product for them. And it's pretty exciting. It's exciting to see kind of how some of those come together and like what we're able to build now versus like, several years back when I didn't have that option. And then now you got a dealer that's excited because it's a custom program to his dealership. No one else may even offer that program, and, it gives him something to really advertise and stand out and look and feel proud about.
I was going to say, consumers do shop around to some degree, maybe not as much now, because now they're just hoping to get the car before somebody else buys it, as opposed to, doing more of the shopping around. But when you have a differentiator like that, they're going to compare it, right? And they're going to ask the other dealer, this is what I'm looking at. What do you offer? And if your answer is nothing,
mm-hmm.
then that's
you're dead in the water. Yeah, no, I mean, that's again, I think the aftermarket space, like where we can build these things and do different things for dealerships, is where it makes them stand out. You don't typically see a whole lot that's unique in dealership manufacturers that makes them all stand apart from each other. Some may include a little bit of maintenance. The warranties are all fairly similar for the most part.
Yeah.
It's where we can come in and add something completely unique and different that makes it, I think, in my opinion, exciting, right? Because you can give somebody, especially when they start to really understand it and feel it, like maybe it's, because we have all these products now that, and this is like, I can ramble on forever, but I get excited about because, it's stuff that we never even looked at before. Like I never really even I was like, yeah, it's just noise. I don't need that in my agency. And now I'm like, no, I actually see where this could fit now, but like, credit monitoring, right? Or, interior, exterior, we got into spraying inside of cars to sanitize them, right? And there's a couple products that do a really good job with that. But what's really exciting about it is you can treat it kind of like a lifetime, where it's a wrap product, where we go in with a 1-year product and then they can wrap it in the finance office. And you get into some of these things and you start thinking about that custom why buy here message. You start building values in areas that never even are talked about, that aren't even something, not typically the large selling items on a menu. You're not seeing,
Right.
ID theft being the number one selling product on your menu, but it's something that's so inexpensive to the dealer, but gives a lot of value to a customer that it's easy to build a why buy here with it. And so we really get into the puzzle pieces of putting that together for a dealer and saying, hey, what if we take this and this, and your dealer cost is only $60 for these two products, but look at all the benefits and features that you can advertise to your consumer with it if you do it on
huge.
Every single transaction. So it's fun. It's fun. And not two dealers have to be the same, right? Everybody can do what they feel like works for them.
Right. Each market's going to be a little different.
Well, exactly. If you have a dealership that deals with a lot of high risk and subprime credit, right, which, in some markets, some guys don't touch it, some do, you may really want to put a focus on a product that's ID theft, and it focuses on credit monitoring and all these different things that are getting built into it. And some of these products, like since we started offering them, have improved themselves. So like the one that does black or dark, what is it? The black web, or I can't think of what it's called.
Dark web.
Dark web. Thank you. I lost my word there, but they monitor that. They monitor your credit. They got, monitor your home title transactions. They got all these little features and benefits that are going into it. And I'm like, God, that is such a cool concept, because, we can offer this to our consumers, especially people that maybe need to improve their credit. And they start really paying attention to it with these tools and how easy it is to maybe dispute something. And it gives them something that really is valuable to them. And it's coming from the dealership, which then just strengthens that customer's relationship with the dealer, because you gave them the means to fix it. You gave them the tools that will help them. And that's huge.
These are valuable tools, because most people are not familiar with the dark web. And I'd venture to say there's probably still a lot of people that don't subscribe to any kind of a credit monitoring or locking type of programs, which is a big mistake.
Right.
Because when you see what these programs do, mind blowing. I've had that type of product for years now, and it'll tell you crazy stuff. It'll tell you that your particular email address or a particular password was found on the dark web. The mistake a lot of people do is they use the same password for multiple accounts.
Well, this same tool they give as agents, we get it for free. And so I went in there and plugged my information into it, and the dark web thing popped up, and it goes, this password has been compromised. Yeah. And of course, it's what I'm currently using on some of the sites. And I'm like, oh my God, so I'm out there changing my password like crazy, but it's a cool tool, because like people will use it and they'll go, oh, and it makes you do differently or change things or start, again, finding real value in this. Because once a month it shoots me an alert on the credit score and a couple different things. And I'm like, oh, and I want to log in and see it. Again, it's the monitoring like you're talking about, but giving that to a customer at no cost, because it's inexpensive for the dealership to do that when you do it on a large scale. It's huge. It's one of those tools that will create some real credibility and some real, longevity with our customers, because now they're going to start to see that you're bringing them something they're going to use and have outside of their traditional, products that they're going to see inside that finance office.
Jackie B. Cooper, back in the day, I had the cassette tapes. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
The scams are so prevalent today that if you have a password or an email that's compromised, that's on the dark web, all right, it's not rocket science. The reason the scammers are out there in full force is because it works, right? What are the odds that somebody has a Bank of America account or a Chase account,
right,
or American Airlines or Delta? So they just buy these email addresses and they pound you with stuff. Say, hey, just want to verify, did you change the phone number on this account? If yes, just disregard it. But if you didn't change it, just click here to rectify the situation. Now, the average consumer isn't thinking that it's a scammer. Thinking, well, if they know I have an account with American Express and they know this was my password, then it must be legit. And that's how they get some of these people. So to offer that as a bonus,
right?
I mean, you're the hero. The one person you save is that person that's going to tell everybody and their brother, sister, and friends
Exactly.
about how you help them out.
Exactly.
Uh,
You're bringing value, not just in what we consider our traditional value, but in ways it's going to continue to stem on, because these
yeah,
tools continue to work for them in the background, and they're not thinking about that company. They're thinking about the dealership that brought it to them.
bingo.
That's the key. I mean, like, we all find and talk about, and the shows that we do, all the time. I'm sure you're like me, you're watching a lot of stuff online, but all the things in the areas that we have areas to grow inside a dealership, because we make
Yep.
mistakes and we constantly are turning customers away, not answering phones, not doing all these things right. What if there's a tool in the background that's just always working, that's doing something to help you? I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that's so cool.
Yeah, no, we see the world through very similar lenses, you and I.
Awesome.
Mike Vogel says, example, or ESC and prepaid maintenance, whenever from the OEM or dealer, definitely has a positive impact on fixed ops as long as they're satisfying their customers. You're talking VSC or ES? I'm not familiar with ESC.
Similar, very same thing. He's right. I mean, in the tailoring, I've had dealerships that have had prepaid maintenance in their store where they were selling it on a pretty regular basis, and the amounts reserved for the maintenance didn't cover the cost of the oil change or the tire rotations. And so you had customers going in using these and then still having a bill remaining. And, it turned into this like almost argument almost every time, whether the dealership would eat the remainder or if the customer is going to get billed. And then it just kind of kills that whole experience for the customer, because they can sense or see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so, he's right. I think these products have a huge impact of creating a loyalty and a customer coming back when done correctly and reserved correctly. I think that's a big part that, can be easily broken, but fixed very simple, but like, make sure that when you're selling a product that has prepaid maintenance, that you have the right amounts reserved for that department. Make sure that you're giving them enough value and then building enough value for the customer at the same time.
And to give another example on that, we all have smartphones, and most of us have screen protectors. And I used to buy my screen protectors from the phone company. And when you need a replacement, you spend $5 on shipping. You have to go, you do your claim online, they send you one, and then they give you the package to return the broken one. Right. So my friend says to me, oh, go to Best Buy. You buy it in the store, and they just replace it for you. No questions asked. There's no deductible, no anything. That sounds really good. So I got both my wife's phone and my phone. Went to Best Buy, got the covers. Great. We're in good shape, right? I go back the other day. I said, yeah, I'm here for the replacement of the screen protector on my wife's phone. The guy points to a little window, a little note on the window. He says, yeah, we don't do that anymore. Said, what do you mean you don't do it? No, you have to send it in. I said, no, I left the send in company because I wanted to do it here. I don't want to pay for shipping and then have to fill something out. No, you don't understand. He says, no, it changed on this day. I said, look, I don't really care when it changed.
Right.
I think now would be appropriate time to have a deeper conversation, because I don't think that you're fully understanding or appreciating what I'm conveying to you here.
Right.
So then the manager comes over and he says, well, we changed. Look, I bought it from you. If you want to refund it, fine. But I paid you. I expect the service. He said, yeah, no problem. And they took care of it. But how many times do you have somebody that's not as assertive, and it could be at the dealership the same way,
right,
that now feels that they got slighted, and they walk out unbeknownst to you. You think you rectified the problem.
Right.
You didn't.
Right.
It went away, and you lost that customer for good.
Yeah. That's a fact. And I'm sure it happens quite a bit. That's the thing that we're always chasing, is the experience that, we know about. And then honestly, the one that we don't, like you said. I think the biggest thing a lot of times happens is, we don't know about a problem until it's too late, right? A customer is calling in and can't get a hold of somebody. We don't necessarily even know about it, and if you're calling a service shop and you're calling and no one answers, or they're rude or something, I mean, just one little thing of time that takes 10, 15 seconds for someone to ruin a relationship, and like how much that really costs that dealership is insane to me. Like, and how little time dealerships spend focusing in on those problems, because it continues to happen. I mean, I can give examples, but I mean, I have a Toyota dealership in town. As you can tell, I'm a Toyota guy. I do a lot of Toyota stuff, but like, so
I'm a
we
big
have
fan.
this Toyota dealership. Every time I call in, I love it because my phone number right away is recognized. So as soon as I'm on the phone with them, they pull up my entire history. Oh, we see you're due for this, and da, da, da. I don't have to tell them who I am, give them all my information.
CDK phone pop.
Right. But I mean, again, how valuable is that when
Huge.
a customer is calling in? It just creates that like, okay, my time is valuable, right? Like a customer goes, okay, cool. They're keeping track of everything. They got this dialed in. I call in, they know exactly what it is. You make your appointment, you move on. And if you're calling a dealership and it's the opposite experience, right? And this is not true just in service, but in every aspect of the dealership.
It's the phone.
And you're giving that customer every reason not to buy from you.
Right.
You're giving that customer every reason to go find your competition who can do it better. That's just the reality of it.
And with that one little piece of software. Hi, Michael. Are you calling about the part that's on order for you? The part that's just come in? Or are you calling to check on the car that's in service now? Right? That's huge as
Right.
opposed to the phone ping pong game.
Exactly.
Got a couple of comments I want to get to.
Sure.
Extended service contracts. I always call them VSC. Got it, Coach. Mike Vogel says, I ran a Toyota service department about 20 years ago that had lifetime free oil changes. We sold 200,000 in customer pay labor per month on those free oil changes. I love that kind of stuff, which is why I'm a huge proponent, huge with a capital H, of chasing the recall business. It's huge.
Right.
You're giving somebody something for free.
Right.
They feel good, and yet opening up other opportunities at the same time. And Timothy Wilson says, sorry, I had to take another call, but was just wondering if Vernon Davis's experience was brought up tonight. It was not. Did you see his post?
I did not.
He was going to reward himself and buy a new vehicle. And he just didn't get the kind of service that any of us should have gotten. And as a result of things, he ended up not buying the car, and he's going to hold on to his car for a while. And you know, it was funny. He posted a picture of a car. He said, this is the one that got away. I said, no, you're awfully wrong on that, my friend. I took a screenshot of his profile picture and I posted that in the comments. And I said, no, this is the one that got away.
Exactly.
You're the one that got away. They lost. Not only did they lose now, but they probably lost down the road, and or anybody else that's close to you that might ask you where it happened.
Yeah, we all say it and scream it from the rooftops, but customer experience is key. You know, and if at whatever point it is, if it's not right, something's not good. I mean, that's all they're going to remember.
Yeah.
So that's why I said I feel like our agency is adapted and changed, but it's like everything behind what we try to push in that office, everything that we're trying to do is about the experience the customer is going to have, right? Yeah. How soon we get out and introduce ourselves, how soon we break down barriers, how soon we start the process to like what we're going to do and how we can efficiently do it matters. It matters. All that 1,000%. Stuff matters because, you know, just that, like he goes into a dealership and says, this is the one that gets away. And you said it exactly how I was thinking it. No,
yeah,
they screwed up. They lost him. You know what I mean? And I would love to have the information if it was one of my dealers, because I'd go in there and have a meeting with it and be like, this is a learning, you know, this is a lesson for us.
Huge.
If you can't take the failures and learn from them, you're never going to grow. Every dealership is going to make mistakes. Every dealership's going to do things that it's just bound to happen. But the trick is that when they happen, not to like, and I think some dealerships don't do this well either, but not to beat somebody up or not to, you know, be very critical on them and how awful they are as a person.
Training opportunity.
Right. To take it as that lesson of like, hey, this happened. This is real. Okay. Yep. Here's a comment. It was even posted on social media. You know, what can we do differently? And then get everybody engaged. You know what I mean? Because that is the way you get that kind of stuff fixed.
Now, another topic is personnel in the finance office. You got to train, you got to attract talent.
So
and how do you keep that talent? And how do you compensate that talent in order to make it work for everybody? What are some of the best practices that you're seeing?
Good. So one of the things that we do inside a lot of dealerships is, as we're working with people, we basically have like a report card that we bring back to our dealers. Here's what we covered. Here's where we think they're at, in scale of where they should be. You know what I mean? So like if somebody's very proficient at understanding products and things that they're presenting, maybe they're a 10. If they're not, they're a 0. We grade you, and what we think, how you're doing. And it's not to beat that person up, but to show progression. So if we're in there 1 week, the next week we go back and you're going backwards, the dealer needs to know that. This is something that we can make, decisions based on. And again, nothing against a person, but we want to make sure they're doing certain steps to make sure, again, the customer experience is what it should be. In some cases.
Now, hold on a second. What you're talking about is holistic overview, i.e. product knowledge on the products, as well as penetration numbers. I mean, everybody
we're
hates
reporting
numbers,
to the dealer on a couple of aspects, but like we're reporting on numbers, right? So we're going to go in there and show them how performance is. It's all performance based, but we're also going to take our training and report back on like a person's engagement, right? And his ability to retain the information, because product knowledge isn't always an easy thing to like remember all the benefits of a product. We don't expect everybody to remember it on one visit, but if we're in there continually working with somebody and they're not progressing and they're not like engaging and trying to learn that material, that's a problem, right? And it's, in my eyes, and I've told everybody that works with me, that's our problem, okay? Because if we don't take that information to the dealer, how's he going to know? How is he going to be any further along in knowing he needs to make a decision or not make a decision? And so, as awful as that may sound, sometimes we're in there helping find the right people, and what we do is we get engaged. We go out there and put the ads out there, blanket a market, interview the people that come in, and we may narrow down 10, 15 applicants down into 2 or 3. And that's the 2 or 3 that we go into with upper management and interview with them directly. And so we try to streamline that process for our dealer partners.
And what are you seeing as some of the better compensation packages?
So that's a moving target. Honestly, we've started with flat percentages, and based on, production. Then we got into kind of like a graduated scale with some dealerships where it moves, right? So we did a plan last week with a dealership in Georgia where the manager came from a store and actually liked the graduating scale. So based on his PVR, his percentage would move. Based on his overall penetration, his percentage would either increase or decrease based on what he did. And so it's a results-driven pay plan, right? And I'm not opposed to those, but the only thing I dislike, and I used to be the guy that was fighting on the other end of this argument, but it demotivates as much as it motivates, right? So you can have a finance manager doing a great job throughout the entire month, and in the last 2 days, he starts getting slammed with tons of deals, and all of a sudden he gets in his own head because he's not making product penetration or sales, and he's watching his pay plan go down. And I've had finance managers tell me, "Oh God, that today cost me $2,000 instead of making me money." And it's like that type of pay plan has got a negative impact. And I don't want them focused so much on their pay plan that it's costing a customer experience. It's costing, something, and maybe product sales. Maybe they start getting in their own way. And so we've driven it more down into each individual category that we really want to focus on and set flat percentages. We have, again, like kind of a different recipe, but it's not designed now to be negative to that finance manager or have a negative impact in the event that the numbers, go up and down. It's not it is their job to hold and maintain average. It's our job to monitor and oversee it. So if something's not working, I should be stepping in and working on what's going on to fix that, not the finance manager. The finance manager should have something that he knows how it works and exactly how it works. And my big thing has always been, he should be able to log in and see where he's at. He shouldn't have to be flying blind or not figuring out what his pay plan is going to add up to. Because sometimes I've noticed dealerships and like we go into and then I ask a finance guy, "How are you tracking? What's your income look like this month?" I don't know. I don't know how to read that thing, and I'm like, holy shit.
That's a problem. That's a big problem.
If you can't figure out like what it is you're doing, if you're tracking good or bad on your income, that's going to get in the way. So, we try to like streamline it, simplify it, and not make it punitive in the sense that it's going to hurt them. When it comes down to like if they had a bad day or something, it's not like they're going backwards.
Yeah, vehicle drive, vehicle service contracts in the drive. There's great products out there. There's great programs. Dealers struggle with it. You can walk into any given dealership at any time and you ask them, "How many VSCs did you sell on the service drive last month?" And maybe you'll have less than what's on one hand.
Right.
and you back into it for the whole year. How do we make that better?
That's an area that I'll take advice from anybody that wants to help me, because we struggle ourselves to get engagement in some instances. We have dialed it into, to me, it's technology and ease. Like, right, we got to make it super easy for these guys to do it, because otherwise I'm adding another step for them. But if I can go in there and I can take a product that's an app, scan, not just vehicle, but driver's license, credit card, all the key ingredients that make it so that sale can happen, that's a huge part of it. Now, what we've also done is taken it a step further and taken that same app and tied it to, a phone call follow-up type of system where if they don't get the sale or don't have something happen, the DMS is scraped and we actually pull and actually call those customers with the company and try to offer them a service contract after the fact. So we've got some different tools and processes that we put in play, but I feel like, all we're going to ever try to do in that space is try to make it fast and efficient. Right. I feel like
it is fast and efficient. It's a scan. You put in the miles and you text it to them or you email it to them.
But the problem I've run into, and this is where I can, like I said, I'm always all ears to see if anyone can help me, is get engagement from service personnel to do something additional. When it's not the systems they're already utilizing, the tools they're already utilizing, I feel like it's harder to get. That's why when you talk about the number of sales in one hand, we have to address where the real issue is. Guys are, this is awful, but lazy. They don't want to add extra steps. And that's in every department. And by me virtue of bringing another app they have to use, I sometimes get that long look in their eyes and I'm trying to explain to them, no, the benefit of this is this, it's simple, it's quick. I can show a customer, hey, it's only $49 a month to add the service contract, and you can do it all from a phone. And the entire process takes 2 minutes. Yeah. And I'm the guy that's passionate in there. Like, God, this thing is awesome. Look how easy this is. I wish it was like this in the finance department,
and you could pay him, you could pay an advisor, you could pay him as much as $100 per contract.
And we do in some cases. And it's just, again, like you said, I still get, what did they do this month? 5. I got 8, and I'm like sitting there like, God, I don't get it. It's got all the right answers. We even got the follow-up system in place, but it's just, that's one of those areas that I'm going to continue to sharpen my sword on and try to get better at. We bring tools to the table that allow us to do it, I think, better than most. And I don't think there's much argument to that, because we can take it to the point where they don't do it and I have somebody do it right behind them.
Right.
But I just feel like that's one of those areas I really want to focus in on and do better and get better results. I feel like it's one of those areas in most dealerships that people probably struggle with to, open that revenue stream.
Every store struggles with that. Every single one. It's a huge opportunity. I mean, with a 40-mile tie back to the store on warranty stuff, the people that come to you for safety inspections on off brands that you could sell product to, that have to come back to you. I mean, the opportunities are unlimited.
Right.
But yeah, it's like yelling fire in a restaurant and nobody moving.
Right.
Got a couple of comments. Mike Vogel says, I work for Penske and SoCal. That's what they did. Seemed to be very customer friendly. Oh, hold on a second. Mike said before that, Michael, do you believe in capping what F&I products can be sold for?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean, I think we're approaching where we need to. I think for compliance and reasons that we need to have set pricing, I think that's going to be something that's coming around the corner. I've never been a big believer in telling a finance manager that he has a cap on what he can sell a product for, but I think we're getting to a day and age where it's coming, because there's plenty of people out there that are still doing things that are not ethical and not right. Selling a powertrain warranty for 1 year for $4,000, that's not right. But yet you still see people out there doing stuff like that, right?
And
it's the extremes like that when I see it that I'm like, this is
where are those customers?
Yeah, but I mean, that's what's going to happen, is that those finance guys that do things like that are dirty are going to affect everybody else, and it's awful. But that's the direction it's probably heading.
Oh. Steve Cheston says, regarding losing customers, my BDC follow-up team debriefs every customer that visited the store, service and sales. Also, no shows. Any issue is a possible lost C4L.
Customer for life.
Customer for life. I have a budget to make things right. Awesome. Good store that empowers their people. Yeah, that's
that's awesome. I mean, that means you're chasing the relationship with the customer and you have a budget to make sure it was right.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Well, Steve's always been ahead of the curve, man. I think I mentioned this last time. somebody comes up with something that they say is new, and Steve will pull this baby out of the archives and show how he did this like 20 years ago.
That's
He's
awesome.
got some incredible content out there.
Very cool.
So, well, this was awesome, man. We got caught up on what we missed. I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much. And as I always say, you remember what you forgot to ask when you had the opportunity. So,
and the funny thing is, I'll probably still think of some more stuff after the show is over.
By all means, if you have any questions, reach out to Michael. Just click on the tag. Ed says, Mike Vogel, in the trucking industry side, companies such as Penske, Ryder, and others who deal with the commercial market tend to be more customer focused due to higher profit/loss margins. 100%. So on that note, I wish you all a happy and successful next week, and we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Thanks for tuning in.